Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Tom Emery. He's an executive and team coach, leadership expert, author, keynote speaker, and podcast host. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Thank you for having me, Ajay. Really great to be here.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll be talking about unlocking C-suite excellence. In that backdrop, we'll learn about a lot of these things from you. But before this, let's understand a bit more about you, about your background, about your journey, so that people know, audience knows who they are listening to.
Sure. So I'm a people performance consultant, and obviously you talked about some of the things that I get involved in. My background is in human resources. So I was in human resources for over 20 years. I worked across several different industries, but most of it was in financial services. I worked for a big global multinational bank for 8 years, did lots of different roles there, including HR business partner roles and head of HR, and also looked after HR operations. And then I was chief HR officer for a wealth management firm in the City of London, sat on the C-suite, reporting into the CEO and then working with the non-executive board. And then I set up my own business in 2022. It's called Hex. We are a people performance consultancy that do things like leadership development, individual coaching, team effectiveness work and team gatherings, broader HR consultancy. And I also have a particular interest in supporting chief HR officers. So I have my own framework for CHROs called the CHRO Impact Framework. And I've also written a book on the subject called People, How to Reach Your Full Potential as a CHRO. And that is released in March next year.
Wonderful. Wonderful, Tom. Now let's talk about human resources. We know that there is a thing called human resources that exist, but we don't hear much from them. I don't know why it is, but many a times it means good news, bad news, mostly CEOs come into the picture. So now with AI coming in and with a lot of things fractional, fractional CHRO, fractional CMO. Mm-hmm. So how would you, in the backdrop or the present trend, correct me if I'm wrong, is it the best of times for CHROs or, human resources, or is it the worst of time for the department itself?
Well, I suppose it depends how you look at it. I mean, I was lucky or unlucky enough to be the CHRO of a firm during the pandemic, and the role really was transformed during that time, and there were lots of opportunities that came out of that because we needed to look after our people and think about how we developed our talent and how we retained our talent in a completely different way through the pandemic. And then post-pandemic, the ways of working that organizations are now doing are so different, and we're having to really support leaders, support organizations to really transform so that they are effective and they're building effective cultures. So I think it's got more difficult in many ways, but I think that goes for a lot of leadership roles in many organizations, that things are getting more complex. The world is more complex, and you mentioned AI. That's obviously a huge opportunity for lots of people, but also brings some concerns, and any change like that brings challenges. So I think it's the way you look at it. And I think part of my model for supporting CHROs is to really be that enterprise leader. So not just thinking about the people agenda, but getting right under the skin of the business, understanding the operation, understanding the market that the business works in, so that they're seen as a proper enterprise leader and not just, this is the person that we go to when we need to recruit somebody or fire somebody.
Right. You see, we are discussing about how a CHRO can reach to their full potential. But a CHRO's job is to make others reach their full potential within the organization, which I don't know is everyone has their own views on this. Why is the CHRO now, he or her has to think about reaching their own full potential? Is it that while helping others, they are not able to pay attention to themselves, or is it a battle for existence for them that either they perform or they perish?
Both. Any person has to perform, or at some point their organization is going to say, well, you're not performing, so perhaps we don't need you anymore. I think a particular trait that I come across in many of the CHROs that I work with, and certainly when I was a CHRO, is that we often are people pleasers, and we often have an identity that's really tied up in saying yes, doing things for other people, prioritizing other people's development, prioritizing other people's objective to reach their full potential, or need to reach their full potential. And we forget about our own teams. And one of the parts of my impact model is about being that really outstanding HR leader that really reflects, has a great mindset about always learning and developing themselves and always developing their team. Because the CHRO and the HR team are a core role in any organization, and they've got to be really capable so that they can support others. It's that old saying, when you get on a plane and they do the safety demonstration, they say, put your own mask on before helping others. And HR teams and CHROs need to do that so that they can make their organizations successful.
Right. The role of human resources, has it contracted or expanded in recent times? How would you see that? And how do you see it going future? Even the future of the workplaces, workplaces getting defined as we move forward. In that aspect, what is it now? How do you see it going forward?
Well, if you think about, I'm not sure whether it's contracted or expanded. I think, over the years, it continues to evolve and change. So, whereas, 30 years ago, we had personnel departments, and it was very much about, staff welfare and support, and also about recruitment and firing people. And then it's evolved now. So it's much more about thinking about, how you are as I said, that word, those words, an enterprise leader, how HR really enables the organization, enables the culture, enables the well-being, the performance of the workforce, and is much more central to the strategic aims of the organization. I think as we go forward, as there is an opportunity to continue to automate lots and lots of bits of the employee life cycle, whether that's automating parts of hiring or automating parts of performance management, then HR is going to continue to become really the thing that AI can't give you at the moment, which is that human understanding of people and relationships and culture, and that real sort of more complex view of an organization and what's going on with its people and what's going on with its system, to make sure that it can absolutely retain its commercial edge and be successful as an organization.
Right. Many a times, the impression is growing that the HR has been reduced to only the recruitment part. And that is what. So why is it so that it's only coming down to the recruitment part, whereas recruitment can only be an extension? They are only screening, they are doing the screening part, and yet more and more complaints are coming that not the right kind of people are entering the organizations, which is leading to toxic workplaces and which is leading to great resignation, quiet quitting. Who has to take the blame here? Will the HR take it, or is it the CEOs or the top leadership always?
Well, look, I mean, I don't think HR has responsibility for facilitating recruitment and providing oversight, but it doesn't have responsibility for doing it. So one of the parts of my CHRO model is being a business talent enabler, and that is all about being the gatekeeper of talent into an organization. So that's supporting the organization, giving them the best tools, giving hiring managers the best tools, and providing that oversight about how they're recruiting people so that they get the best people into the organization. So, I was in wealth management. I'm not a financial advisor. So, I can't recruit a great financial advisor. That needs to be done by someone who really understands the business, understands the client, and understands what that role has to do. But what I can do is I can provide proper frameworks so that I can make sure that they're doing a really robust job, and I can provide that oversight. I disagree with you when you say that HR is just becoming about recruitment, because I think there's the whole employee life cycle. The challenge for HR people that I think we struggle with, or think they struggle with, is that it's making the links between everything. So when you recruit somebody, you should be recruiting somebody based on what you value as an organization in terms of performance, and that should link into your talent management framework. It should link into your performance management framework. It should link into your compensation approach. So everything should be linked together. And I think that really is the challenge for HR teams, is how you don't work in silos. So you see, right, we have recruitment, then we have onboarding, then we have performance management, then we have talent management, and then we have an exit interview, and they're all separate. They all need to link together in that employee lifecycle arc, if you like.
Right, Tom. So you talked about challenges. So what are the major challenges? If you can tell us about other challenges that an HR team or a CHRO has nowadays, so that people can understand their point of view better.
Well, so I think there are differing views in different organizations about what the HR team is there to provide. So, when I was an HR leader, people used to come to me and say things like, well, the toilets are a mess. And I'd be like, well, what do you want me to do about the toilets? I'm not a cleaner. Go and find a cleaner and they'll clean it for you. So there's a mismatch between what the HR team is there to deliver and what the organization thinks it's there to deliver. So there's a big contracting piece for HR leaders to do. I'm very keen on purpose, and for any leader, I'm not just talking about HR people here, but very keen on making sure that people are aware of their purpose and are clear on their purpose, and use that then to contract their relationships with the rest of the organization, so that everybody knows, like, this is what you can expect from me. And there are some questions as well. You need to be curious about what the organization wants from you and wants from your function, so that you can decide what your proposition is, if you like, and then you can go out and you can talk about it and you can deliver it. I also have an intentional leadership model, which is much more broad than the CHR impact framework, but it does have some overlap. And the intentional leader model is all about being very intentional with how you approach your role and how you approach relationships and how you approach your time. And I think there's lots of lessons there that, if we want to be successful, we need to be reflective about how we're managing our relationships and where we put our effort. And we're honest with ourselves about when we get dragged into doing things which we moan about. We might not think we want to do them, but actually we secretly quite like them. They give us a bit of a dopamine hit, but they're not very good for productivity. So I think these are challenges that go across lots of different leaders, but I think particularly for the HR function, because HR, can mean lots of different things to different people.
Right. And that is where your CHRO impact framework comes in. Tell us a bit about that, so that, how does it support HR leaders? Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I coach and mentor several HR leaders, and I also work with HR teams as well. So the model has a core mindset, which is being purposeful and always learning. I've discussed those two things already. Very, very, very important that we're very purposeful. We understand what we're there to do, and we therefore build our daily, where we spend our time and effort around that. Always learning, as I said, got to be always learning, always developing ourselves and focusing on that development. It has 4 key skills. I've talked a little bit about some of those already, but one of those is being a commercial explorer. So that's really understanding the business and understanding the market. The second bit is about being an expert in the field. So you've got to be great at HR. You don't have to know everything in detail, but you've got to be really good at your craft. Being an outstanding HR leader. So that's building a great team with the right skills, the right capability. And finally, being a culture and performance catalyst, which is about making sure you've got a great people strategy aligned to your commercial goals. That means the organization is achieving what it needs to. And that's thinking about culture. It's thinking about leadership capability, and it's thinking about things like diversity and inclusion. You've then got, finally, you've got 4 personas. They are enterprise leader, which is, I've talked a little bit about that already. Leading across the organization, not just on the people stuff, really important. It's being a trusted partner. You need to partner your CEO, you need to partner your exco, and then you need to partner your board. And they all might have slightly different priorities, and even slightly different priorities to your own. So managing those relationships is quite important. And then the final 2 personas are to be a business talent enabler, which I've talked about already, and then the other one is an HR talent enabler, which is making sure that you bring on the next generation of HR talent, so that when you leave and you move on and you do other things, then you've got great people sort of coming up behind you.
Right, right. And now let's learn a bit more from your book, People, People. It's a nice name of the book. How did you get this idea about people, people? Though it's all about people, but always it does not remain about people. So what is this book about? Who is this book for? Is it for HR leaders or is it for the employees to understand the better part of HR?
Well, I suppose the primary target audience is HR leaders, existing and aspiring CHROs that want to really hone their skills and tweak, and maybe tweak the way that they do things. So when I became a CHRO, I had an awesome boss. She was very, very supportive, gave me lots of guidance, but I was pretty unprepared for, the onslaught of different priorities and tasks that I had to get on with. And I would have really benefited from having a framework to work through at the time. And so the book is based on my CHRO impact framework, but it's a little bit different for a business book because it's a work of fiction, and it tells the story of Joanna, who's a CHRO who's struggling, and she goes to see a coach, and with the coach they work through the framework, and she tries new things, and she pushes herself into the discomfort of change and doing things in a different way. And she changes her boundaries, she changes where she focuses her time. She recontracts with the organization. She thinks more broadly about her role so that she can be that true enterprise leader. And she goes into places that, not all HR people think to go into. So, she thinks about how she can make her organization more sustainable, for example. So you see her grow through the story, and hopefully it will inspire others that they can, use the framework to grow as well. And I can only coach and mentor a small number of people in the grand scheme of things. So I wanted really to be able to get my message out to others and help as many people as they can. Publishing a book takes quite a long time. So although I finished writing it earlier in the year, it isn't going to be out until March, sadly. But I do have a guide that I've put together, which summarizes the framework, and this is like a workbook that people can work through. And if people get in contact with me, I'm really happy to send a copy of that to them for free anywhere in the world. So if they want to get in touch with me, then I will send that.
Right. Now, Tom, one more thing is that in the world that we live in, companies keep on, right sizing. That's the lot of word used by human resource departments during right sizing, or so-called, restructuring. If they become victim of this some sort of a right sizing, what is it that they can do in terms of finding place for themselves in other companies, not in the HR department, which are the other departments that they can look at and actually excel in those areas? Generally, it is people who in other departments that think about it and they are able to, but we don't hear much about, HR personnel who are able to find jobs in other departments. They might be, but we don't hear about it. So what are the options for a HR person if they want to leave one organization and want to look at other departments in other organizations?
I don't think it's any different for HR people than it is for any other person who wants to make a change in their career. And the first thing to say that if you want to make a change in your career, as I did, I left a job and I've been paid every month for over 20 years. And then I left to be, set up my own company. And, making a change like that is uncomfortable. It's exciting, but it takes a bit of bravery and, you got to push yourself to do things. So I would first of all recognize that it's going to be uncomfortable, but often when you're in a state of discomfort, that is when change is happening and that is when magic is happening. And they're the bits that you look back on in your career and you think, that is the bit I'm proud of. So push yourself to take risks, definitely. Get curious about what's going on in other areas and other businesses and other functions. So go and talk to people. Like, be brave about just asking for time in people's diaries. Talk to your friends. Talk to your network if you've got one. appreciate not everybody has a great network, but get on LinkedIn, just get yourself out there, get talking to people, and as I say, be brave to have some of those conversations. The other thing I think about is think about what energizes you. So often we go through our careers and we think that we go through our careers thinking, well, we just need to get progression, we just need to get more money, and actually that's not necessarily going to make us happy. It's important that you think about, well, what really energizes you and what do you enjoy doing, because those are the things that you're likely to excel at and that you're likely to enjoy and get better at. And think about what frustrates you and avoid the things that frustrate you. And then finally, I would think about your values and think about, what are your values? What sort of firms you want to work for, or, what's important to you from a values perspective? Is it sustainability? Is it inclusion? Or are you, someone who's really driven by making money and making profit? And there's no judgment there. I think, just work out what it is that really floats your boat, and then get out there and ask some questions. And it's not easy. It's not easy to change career, but persevere, and I think you'll get there.
Absolutely. There is much to learn from you, Tom, about all these things, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to learn from you, learn more about your company, get your help, and also read or learn from your book. So what's the best way for them to connect with you?
So they can feel free to link in with me on LinkedIn. You can find me just Tom Emery, as my name is. My website is www.hex-development.com. You can get in touch with me via my website. It'd be great to hear from anybody. I love to hear from people. Love chatting.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.